everyone. I was just talking with my friend about my daughter because she's about to turn 2, and I just want to make a little video about, her story and just a little bit of a story of hope because things were not always that way leading up to getting pregnant with her. And yeah, let's get into it. My son was about a year and a half old. We decided to start trying for another baby. We got pregnant right away. It was amazing, and we were so excited because we always wanted to have our kids 2 to 3 years apart. We knew we at least wanted 2, maybe 3. The pregnancy was relatively easy, and I just had this feeling deep down like, yeah, this is another boy. And we just felt so thrilled at that. My husband always wanted 2 boys, and I was already a boy mom, so come on, let's have another boy, no big deal. So we went to the 12-week appointment and everything looked great. He was measuring great. He's got a great heartbeat. I'd been getting a heartbeat at home too with a Doppler, and we did the genetic testing. So about a week later, we got the results back, and we were planning to do this big reveal with our whole family because with our son, we got pregnant during COVID, and so we weren't able to have a party or anything. So we were planning this gender reveal party. I was going to be about 16 weeks for the party because it's just when it worked out for everyone. We didn't live in our hometown at the time. So we were starting to plan, and we can't handle a surprise. So we totally looked at the results early, and we were so excited that it was another boy, and everything genetically looked amazing. There was no issues at all. And then the weekend before the party, we were visiting my husband's parents, and I went to the restroom and there was blood, and it was just a little bit. There really wasn't much, but I immediately freaked out. I just had a bad feeling like something wasn't right, and I literally have chills right now. I just knew something wasn't right, and I called the on-call OB, and they're telling me, it could be from sex, it could be just from like exercise, like could be any little thing. It's nothing to worry about, but come in tomorrow and we'll do an ultrasound just to check on you. You can always go to the ER if you're like that concerned about it, but we are really not that concerned. So I said, okay. The next morning, I'm calling my OB's office, and nobody is getting back to me. I'm waiting hours and hours and hours. I've called like 6 times by noon. Finally, I was like, I can't take this anymore. I'm going to the office. So I literally drove there, and I marched in, and I said, somebody needs to see me. I don't know what's going on, but I'm bleeding, and we need to check it out. So they pulled me in for an ultrasound actually within like 20 minutes. I think they could tell I meant business. So I went in for the ultrasound, and I work in radiology too, so I'm watching her, and she's looking and looking and looking, and I can tell there's no heartbeat. And she eventually tells me, she's like, I'm so sorry, but I can't find a heartbeat. And I'm just like devastated. I can't stop crying. Like, I don't know when I ever stopped, to be honest. I was just, we were 15 and a half weeks by this point, and when you get to that point, you just think like, we made it to the good part. The genetic testing's good. Like, what could possibly have caused this? And the doctors talked me, I don't even remember what she said. It's all kind of a blur, but she wasn't able to get us in the next day for a D&C, because we were kind of in that spot where it's like you can either induce labor or you could still do a D&C. They recommend the D&C so that they can get the full placenta out. because typically the placenta is bigger than the baby at that point. She couldn't do it the next day, so it was scheduled for 2 days after that, which was awful. Just going home knowing that your baby's not alive and it's still inside you is just, if you've been there, moms, you know it is awful. So we went. I actually was there alone because my husband was with our son. So I'm calling him and telling him, and we're just devastated. That's the only word there is. So anyways, the next day comes around and we're trying to figure out, something to do to get our minds off of what's going on. And so we take our son for a drive out in the woods, and we're just kind of trying to distract ourselves, I guess. And on the way back, I start laboring. I start having contractions, and since I've had a baby before, I knew what was happening, so I was in labor. And so I had my husband just drive us straight to labor and delivery, because I just thought they'll know what to do to take care of me. I don't know. So we go to labor and delivery, and they were just amazing, thank God. But it was awful. Like, my water broke. It was truly like any normal labor, except the baby wasn't alive. So my OB ended up coming, and they still took me for a D&C. However, the baby had already come down the birth canal. We chose not to see him. We just felt like that would be super traumatizing. And I still go back and forth, like, did we make the mistake? But I don't know, it's so hard to say. So they also asked me if we would like to biopsy him to see what was wrong. And we opted to, just because it was like everything so far was so good during the pregnancy. So yeah, let's find out what happened, So they did that, and the people at the hospital were amazing. They sent us home with books for our son, because he was old enough to understand, to a point. Like, we would tell him there's a baby in mommy's belly, and that sort of thing. So they gave him books, and they gave us little, like, mementos and stuff, and it was really sweet. But it was just like the darkest time of your whole life to have a child die. So yeah, it was, I don't know how we got through it, just day by day, faking it till we make it, crying all night long. And I just felt so disconnected from God, because I was like, why would this happen? I don't see, like, how could this be anything good? Like, how could anything good come of this? Like, all that's happened is misery. And so we were just so sad and depressed for a long time. So about a month later, I got a cycle back, and we just thought, we're gonna be depressed either way. We might as well be depressed and pregnant. I don't know. It was like a stupid thought. Just like, maybe that will bring us a little joy. Maybe it won't. But we still, like, had that goal of having another child. Even though deep down I was like, I don't want another baby. I want this baby, and I want to put him back, and I want to have him, you know, and you can't have that. So anyways, we ended up getting pregnant again right away, and we found out the day of my son's birthday party. So this was his second birthday party. Mom brain. His second birthday party. So this was October of 2022. We found out we were pregnant, and it was mixed emotions for sure. Like, you want to be excited, but so apprehensive after what just happened. Like, everything's fine and he still died, so I can't possibly be happy. And there's no point where I'm going to feel like it's gonna be okay. Like, most people say, oh, in 12 weeks I'm gonna be okay. Well, it was later than that, so when am I gonna feel okay? But this time I just felt so strongly like this is a girl, 100%. And my husband was like, no, you know, I want it to be a boy. Even though I already have a boy, but he just had this idea, you know, and he's like, you really think that? Yeah, I 100% know this is a girl. And so this time everything looked good. We got the genetic testing. We didn't even plan a party because we said, you know what, it didn't work out last time, let's just look at it ourselves. So literally I was at work and he was at work, and we both opened the little reveal video on the website at the same time. That was a girl. I was really excited, but I think my husband was terrified because you automatically are picturing like, oh my gosh, a teenage girl, here we freaking go. Even though that's so far away, but you're just picturing like, what are we gonna do with this teenage daughter someday? And we don't know what to do with a girl, we're used to a boy. But it was so exciting. And then on Christmas we announced to our whole family that we were having a girl. I wore a little shirt that said baby girl's first Christmas, and everyone was so excited. Everyone thought it was a boy, and they were dead wrong. It was a girl. And it's the first girl that our family's had in a really long time, and so it's just a really exciting moment. But still, apprehension through the whole pregnancy. The only thing that we were able to find out, so with the biopsy being completely negative for any issues, the genetic testing was negative for any issues. When I got pregnant, my OB immediately ordered a bunch of tests. So blood clotting disorders, just anything and everything, because it's like, can we prevent it this time? The only thing that came up slightly abnormal was my anti-cardiolipin. So all that means is that I have an increased risk of having a blood clot. It doesn't mean that that's what happened before, although it is possible. So I automatically was on a blood thinner from 7 weeks until 36 weeks. The only blood thinner that is completely safe for your entire pregnancy, unfortunately, is an injectable blood thinner called, what's it called? I don't know what it's called. Anyways, so every single day I did the injections, and it was terrible. It was really terrible. So on top of being just depressed about our baby that we lost, the pregnancy was not fun with having to do the injections every day. My stomach was black and blue, and I had terrible pelvic problems during the pregnancy, to the point where I could only lift my foot about this high off the ground without it hurting. I literally had to get a doctor's note to park in the parking garage at my work because was I could not walk up a single stair. And the employee parking lot was, you know, a series of ramps, and I literally couldn't do it. So I would go park in the parking garage, get in the elevator, go up one floor to walk into work. It was just crazy. But anyways, horrible pregnancy, and I just thought, oh my gosh, I don't know what we've gotten ourselves into. Here we are with this, you know, 2-year-old who sleeps all through the night and everything's great, and I'm just straight miserable. I'm like, how am I gonna wake up all night again? What am I gonna do? So this leads me to what I was talking about with my friend. Is we were talking about baby names, and it's like, how do you come up with a baby name? And I told her I think of some names and I just wait for a sign that that's the name that I should choose. So I was thinking of the name Ember, like Ember. And literally the next day I'm just like, have worship music on shuffle, because like, God's gonna get me through this pregnancy. And I'll show the lyrics here, but the lyrics say the word Ember, and it's like, oh, I have chills. It's like, that's her name. It's this baby's name. And I called my husband after, and I said, I've got it. I've got her name, and this is what just happened. He said, I love it. And so that's her name, Ember. And after she was born, she's just been the most angelic baby. I mean, she slept through the night at 2 months old. She nursed like a champ. She rarely cried. Like, just literally the world's best baby. And it just has me convinced that she was sent from heaven, from her brother, handpicked, sent straight to us from him, and just an absolute angel, an absolute joy. And I don't know what we would do without that girl. And it's just incredible, because if we didn't go through that loss, we wouldn't have our daughter. And as much as I will grieve that baby for the rest of my life, I also know I would not have my sweet Ember if that never happened. So it's just a wild feeling. I can't believe she's about to be 2 years old. But with this story, I think there's a lot of hope in it, that, you know, a rainbow baby, it's the rainbow after the storm. A rainbow has always been biblically, you know, it's God's promise. And we may not have seen how the story was going to unfold, but he knew. And it was all worth it to have our perfect, beautiful family. As tragic as it was, there is joy after mourning. The joy comes in the morning. And I know that so deeply in my soul. And God has shown me that over and over and over. And it's just so funny, not funny, but wild, because I want to say my husband and I were like 19 years old, and I just had this vision of 2 children, a boy and a girl. And when we got pregnant with our second son, I just thought, it's kind of weird that it's a boy, because I had this vision, but whatever, maybe like there's 3 children in in our future. There still could be. But I just thought, And so when we had our boy and our girl, it was like, wow, that really was real, and his promises never fail. Even if there's a bunch of junk you don't want in the middle, we don't get to pick. But he is always faithful. And anyway, I know I cried right through this, but I hope that this story gives you hope if you're going through a hard time, or you're grieving, or you've lost a baby. I hope you know that it's not the end of your story. There is more to come, and